The U.S. Perseverance hung in space like a weathered sentinel, her hull bearing the marks of 2 decades of faithful service. Captain Sarah Chen stood at the bridge's main viewport, watching distant stars glimmer through a web of microfractures in the reinforced glass. These imperfections, deemed cosmetic damage by the brass, were just one of many repairs that had been indefinitely postponed. The ship's systems hummed with a distinctive resonance that Chen had come to know as intimately as her own heartbeat. Modern vessels, with their perfectly calibrated engines and sound-dampening technology, didn't have this character. But the Perseverance was different. She spoke to those who knew how to listen. "Captain," Lieutenant Rivera called from his station. "Another request from command about our decommissioning schedule." He didn't bother hiding his frustration. "They want to know why we haven't begun mothballing procedures." Chen continued studying the stars. "Tell them our primary computer is processing the request. Estimated response time: 72 hours. A small smile crossed her face. "The old systems can be so terribly slow." The bridge crew suppressed their grins. The Perseverance's computer might be outdated, but it was far from slow, especially since Chief Engineer Maya Wang had reconfigured it to operate in parallel processing modes that hadn't been used in 15 years. The truth was, the Perseverance was the only thing standing between 3 vulnerable colony worlds and whatever lurked in the darkness of space. Budget cuts and strategic reorganization had stripped this sector of its defensive fleet. Newer, more advanced ships were needed for the frontline conflicts with the Thraxian Empire. The brass had decided that these low-priority colonies could wait a few months for protection. Chen had other ideas. Deep in the engineering section, Chief Wang was elbow-deep in the ship's secondary power coupling. Her modifications weren't exactly regulation, bypassing safety limiters and routing power through redundant systems to boost overall output, but they were necessary. She'd learned long ago that sometimes the book had to be thrown out entirely. "Chief," her assistant Davis called from beneath a console, "I think I found something interesting in the old weapon systems documentation. Looks like the targeting computers have underlying protocols that were never fully removed, military hardware from the resource wars. The new stealth systems everyone uses. They're not designed to hide from this old tech." Wang's eyes lit up. "Download everything. And Davis, this stays between us and the captain." The ship's intercom crackled. "Engineering, bridge. Chief, we're picking up some unusual readings. Can you check if it's interference from your maintenance work?" Wang studied her diagnostics panel. "Negative, bridge. My systems are clean." She paused, noticing something odd in the power fluctuations. "Actually, Captain, you might want to look at oscillation pattern Delta 7. It's familiar." On the bridge, Chen pulled up the pattern. Her blood ran cold. She'd seen this signature once before, early in her career. Right before a Thraxian strike fleet dropped out of hyperspace and reduced a mining outpost of atoms. "Sound General Quarters," Chen ordered, her voice calm but firm. "But do it via manual signals only. No automated alerts." The crew jumped into action, but without the usual klaxons and flashing lights. Instead, information spread through the ship the old way, through runners and manual signal systems that hadn't been used in years. In the ship's belly, Wang's team worked with renewed urgency. They'd been preparing for something like this, modifying and improving systems that the rest of the fleet had written off as obsolete. The Perseverance might be old, but age had brought wisdom. Every battle scar, every patch, every jury-rigged repair held lessons learned in blood and sacrifice. "Multiple contacts," Rivera reported, his voice tight. "Reading, 17 signatures. Thraxian combat configurations. They're running silent, using the latest stealth systems." He looked up, a fierce grin on his face. "But our old sensors see them just fine." Chen nodded, feeling the familiar surge of adrenaline. The Thraxians, like Command, had made the mistake of assuming that newer automatically meant better. They'd forgotten that sometimes the old ways had endured for a reason. Load targeting solutions into the backup computers, she ordered. Passive scans only. Let them think we're as blind and helpless as we're supposed to be. She opened a secure channel to engineering. Chief Wong, remember that impossible scenario we discussed? The one with the power modifications that would void every warranty we don't have anymore. Already on it, Captain, Wong replied, the sound of rapid typing in the background. Just say the word, and this old girl will show them what 20 years of experience looks like. Chen took one last look at the stellar display, at the 3 colony worlds depending on them. The Perseverance might be scheduled for the scrapyard, might be considered obsolete by the bureaucrats and strategists. But right here, right now, she was exactly what humanity needed. All hands. Chen broadcast through the ship's internal speakers, her voice carrying to every compartment. This is the captain. In about 10 minutes, we're going to remind the galaxy why humanity's older ships are still worth fearing. Stand by to show these aliens what happens when they underestimate us. The Perseverance's engines thrummed with power as Wong's modifications came online. Old metal groaned as systems were pushed far beyond their original specifications. But like the crew that served aboard her, the ship had no intention of going quietly into retirement. The battle that would become legend was about to begin. The Thoraxian fleet emerged from stealth like predators shedding their camouflage. Their ships were everything the Perseverance wasn't. Sleek, modern, wrapped in technology so advanced it bordered on magical. They moved with perfect coordination, their formation designed to overwhelm any resistance with overwhelming force. In engineering, Chief Wong watched their approach on a jury-rigged display cobbled together from 3 different generations of technology. They're running their stealth systems at maximum, she reported, unable to hide her satisfaction. Burning through power just to hide from modern sensors they think we have. Status of our modifications, Captain Chen asked, her voice calm despite the odds they faced. Better than we hoped, Wong replied. Davis found something interesting in the old weapon systems. These Mark IV torpedoes everyone wrote off as obsolete. Turns out their guidance systems use quantum entanglement principles that modern countermeasures can't detect, let alone block. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Thoraxians had spent fortunes developing defenses against the latest human weapons, but they'd never bothered to protect against outdated technology. Why would they? Even human strategists considered these old systems worthless. Multiple encrypted transmissions from the enemy fleet, Lieutenant Rivera reported. They're using our own captured protocols, the ones that were supposedly unbreakable. Are they now? Chen raised an eyebrow. Good thing we're still running communication systems, so old they predate those protocols. What are they saying? Rivera's hands flew across his console, the ancient decryption matrices handling data in ways their creators had never intended. Standard intimidation package. Demanding our surrender, promising mercy if we stand down. There? He paused, double-checking his readings. They're only broadcasting on modern frequencies. They don't even think we can hear them on the old bands. Throughout the ship, crews worked with quiet efficiency, preparing systems that hadn't seen combat in decades. The Perseverance's missile tubes were loaded with torpedoes that modern ships couldn't even carry anymore. Their guidance systems deemed too primitive to be worth maintaining. Point defense guns that required manual targeting were charged up, their simple but robust mechanics immune to the electronic warfare that could cripple newer systems. They're deploying their electronic warfare suite, Rivera warned. Latest generation neural scramblers and targeting disruption fields. Chief Wong's laugh echoed through the comm. Let them. Our targeting computers are too simple to scramble. Can't confuse something that runs on pure mathematics and determination. The enemy fleet spread out, clearly confident in their superior numbers and technology. Their formation was perfect, textbook even, designed to counter any modern tactical response. But the Perseverance's crew had spent months studying older battle records, learning strategies that had been forgotten by newer generations. Helm, bring us about, Chen ordered. Engineering. Divert power to the forward shields. The old way, through the manual conduits. The Perseverance turned ponderously, like an elderly warrior settling into a fighting stance. To the Thoraxians, it must have looked like the desperate maneuver of an obsolete ship. They couldn't see how Wong's modifications had transformed those old systems into something unique, a hybrid of proven reliability and innovative engineering. Enemy fleet is launching fighters, Rivera reported. Latest model combat drones. Our database doesn't even recognize the design. Good thing we're not using the database then, Chen replied. Tactical, activate the point defense grid. Manual targeting only. Ancient targeting computers whirred to life, their simple but lightning-fast calculations unaffected by the Thoraxians' electronic warfare. The first wave of enemy fighters swooped in, their advanced stealth systems rendering them nearly invisible to modern sensors. But the Perseverance's old radar array saw them just fine. Radio waves didn't care about quantum stealth fields. The ship's point defense guns spoke, their seemingly primitive projectiles guided by gunners using targeting systems that relied more on human intuition than artificial intelligence. 3 enemy fighters disappeared in balls of flame. 5 more broke formation, their pilots clearly shocked by the accuracy of weapons they'd been told were obsolete. They're pulling their fighters back, Rivera reported, the excitement clear in his voice. Readings suggest they're reconfiguring their stealth systems, but they can't hide from what they don't understand. In engineering, Wong's team worked with practiced efficiency, routing power through systems in ways their designers had never imagined. The old fusion reactor, freed from artificial limitations, produced more power than any modern efficiency expert would have believed possible. Ready for your crazy plan, Captain, Wong reported. Just say the word. Chen studied the tactical display, watching the enemy fleet regroup. They were already adapting, but their responses were predictable, based on countering modern tactics and technology. They had no frame of reference for what the Perseverance could do. All hands, Shen broadcast throughout the ship. In about 30 seconds, we're going to show these aliens why experience matters more than fancy technology. Chief Wong is about to make this old girl dance in ways that would give the designers heart attacks. Brace for maneuvers they'll be teaching in academies for years to come. The Perseverance's engines flared with power that, according to every modern engineering textbook, they shouldn't have been able to produce. The old ship moved with unexpected grace, her experienced crew and battle-tested systems working in perfect harmony. The real battle was about to begin, and the Thoraxians were about to learn that they weren't the only ones who could spring surprises. Sometimes the deadliest weapon was the one you dismissed as harmless, a lesson humanity had learned long ago, and one they were about to teach again. The Perseverance shuddered as another volley of Thoraxian energy weapons slammed into her reinforced hull. Warning lights cascaded across every console on the bridge, but Captain Chen's expression remained steady. She'd expected this, the moment when the enemy would stop underestimating them and commit to full attack. Hull breach on Deck C, Rivera called out, his hands flying across his console. Emergency containment holding. Barely. In engineering, Chief Wong's voice crackled through the comm, punctuated by the sound of emergency repairs. Captain, they've figured out our shield modulation trick. Switching to pattern Sigma now, something I cobbled together from 3 different obsolete configurations. The enemy fleet had abandoned their elegant formations, now focusing purely on overwhelming firepower. Their ships moved with deadly purpose, coordinated by artificial intelligence that could calculate millions of tactical possibilities per second. But they hadn't counted on human unpredictability. Multiple impacts. The tactical officer's voice was strained but professional. They're using some kind of resonance weapon, trying to shake us apart. Chen nodded grimly. They think this old hull will crack under pressure. Chief Wong, remember that structural reinforcement theory you had? The one that made absolutely no sense on paper. Already on it, Wong replied. Redirecting power through the auxiliary framework. The whole ship's going to ring like a bell, but we'll hold together. The Perseverance's ancient hull plates began to vibrate, producing a harmonic frequency that actually deflected some of the enemy fire. It was the kind of solution that would have never worked on a modern vessel. Their precisely engineered structures wouldn't have survived the stress. But the Perseverance's old bones were made of sterner stuff. Enemy flagship is launching something new, Rivera reported. Energy signature is off the charts. Some kind of concentrated plasma weapon. Chen watched the massive energy buildup on her tactical display. The Thoraxians were done playing games. They were bringing out their ultimate weapons. All hands, brace for impact. Engineering, give us everything you've got. The plasma beam lashed out across space, a lance of artificial starfire that could vaporize a modern cruiser. It struck the Perseverance dead center and split apart, scattered by magnetic fields that shouldn't have existed. In engineering, Wang's team had rigged the old electromagnetic cargo handling systems into an impromptu defense grid. Did you see that? Wang's laughter carried an edge of hysteria. They spent billions developing that weapon, and we beat it with modified loading equipment. But the victory was short-lived. The enemy fleet pressed their attack, concentrating fire on sections they thought were weakened. The Perseverance's innovative defenses were holding, but the strain was beginning to show. Primary power conduits failing, Rivera reported. Switching to backups. Backups are gone too. We're running on emergency power. Chen's mind raced. They'd bloodied the enemy's nose, shown them that humanity wasn't to be underestimated. But now, they were running out of tricks. Or were they? Chief Wang, she called out, remember that absolutely insane idea you had about the old fusion reactor? The one that would probably get us all court-martialed if we survived. There was a moment of silence from engineering. Captain, that was theoretical. If it goes wrong, we're no worse off than we will be in about 5 minutes anyway, Chen replied. Do it. Throughout the ship, crews rushed to implement Wang's most dangerous modification yet. The old fusion reactor, already pushed far beyond its design limits, was about to attempt something that violated several laws of physics. Enemy fleet is regrouping, Rivera warned. They're forming up for a final attack run. Whatever we're going to do, it needs to happen now. Chen opened a channel to the whole ship. All hands, this is the captain. What we're about to attempt has never been done before. Chief Wang is about to rewrite the laws of physics, and our enemies are about to learn why you should never corner a human who's run out of reasonable options. If anyone would like to register a formal protest about this violation of safety protocols, I'll be in my office, assuming we survive. A ripple of grim laughter spread through the crew. They'd all signed up for this mission, knowing it was likely to be their last. But if they were going down, they'd go down showing the galaxy why humanity had survived every threat it had ever faced. In engineering, Wang's fingers danced across her console, inputting commands that would have given her professors nightmares. Ready on your order, Captain. Just remember, if this works, I want it named after me in the textbooks. The enemy fleet moved forward in perfect formation, their weapons charged for a killing blow. They had no way of knowing that they were about to witness something unprecedented. A desperate gamble born of human ingenuity, and the kind of courage that came from having nothing left to lose. Chen took one last look at the tactical display, at the colony worlds they were protecting, at her crew who had given everything to keep this old ship fighting. Do it. The Perseverance's reactor began to pulse with energy that defied conventional physics, preparing to demonstrate why humanity's greatest breakthroughs often came at its darkest moments. The Perseverance's reactor chamber blazed with impossible light as Chief Wang's modifications took effect. Energy readings spiked beyond anything the ship's sensors could measure, creating cascading waves of quantum distortion that rippled through space itself. Containment fields at 300% of maximum. Wang's voice crackled through the comm, barely audible over the sound of straining machinery. The reactor's not just running hot, Captain. It's creating its own pocket of altered spacetime. On the bridge, Captain Chen watched as reality itself seemed to warp around her ship. The Thraxian fleet's perfect formation began to distort, their carefully calculated trajectories thrown into chaos by gravitational forces that shouldn't have existed. Their targeting systems are going crazy, Rivera reported, genuine awe in his voice. The space around us, it's like we're everywhere and nowhere at once. Wang had discovered something that modern scientists had overlooked. The old fusion reactor's inefficient design actually allowed for quantum fluctuations that newer models eliminated. By amplifying these fluctuations to an unprecedented degree, she'd turned the ship's power plant into something entirely new. Enemy fleet is falling back, Tactical reported. Their advanced targeting systems can't compensate for the spatial distortions. But Captain, our weapons are equally affected. We can't get a clean shot. Chen smiled. Who said anything about needing a clean shot? Chief Wang, remember those worthless Mark IV torpedoes? The ones with the primitive guidance systems. Already loading them, Captain, Wang replied. These old birds don't care about spatial distortion. They'll home in on anything with a heat signature. And right now, the Thraxians are lighting up our sensors like a solar flare. The Perseverance's ancient torpedo tubes opened, launching weapons that modern naval doctrine had dismissed as obsolete. But in this twisted pocket of space-time, their simple guidance systems proved far more effective than the most advanced targeting computers. Multiple hits confirmed. Rivera's voice rose with excitement. 3 enemy ships disabled. No, make that 5. Their shields aren't designed to handle weapons coming from multiple dimensional vectors. The Thraxian fleet's formation had completely broken down. Their ships, for all their technological superiority, were helpless against an enemy that seemed to defy the laws of physics. Some vessels attempted to retreat, only to find their hyperspace calculations scrambled by the quantum distortions. Enemy flagship is moving to attack position, Tactical warned. They're charging their main weapon array. Energy readings are off the scale. Chen nodded grimly. They're desperate now, about to learn the second worst lesson in warfare. Never let your enemy make you abandon your strategy for blind aggression. She opened a channel to engineering. Chief, how much more can you push the reactor? About 3 minutes at current output, Wang replied. After that, we either shut it down or say hello to a very localized Big Bang. Helm, plot an intercept course with the enemy flagship, Chen ordered. All power to the forward shields. And I mean all of it. Strip every other system if you have to. The Perseverance surged forward, its ancient hull groaning under forces it was never designed to endure. The enemy flagship's weapon systems blazed, pouring enough energy into space to vaporize a small moon. But in the quantum maelstrom surrounding the human vessel, most of their shots missed, hitting ghost images or passing through empty space, where the Perseverance had been microseconds before. Their flagship's core is destabilizing, Rivera reported. All that energy they're pumping into their weapons, their safety systems can't compensate for the spatial distortions. Chen watched as the massive alien vessel began to break apart, its own power turning against it. Modern technology, it seemed, could be too sophisticated for its own good. Sometimes the simplest solutions were the most effective. Enemy fleet is in full retreat, Tactical announced. They're actually running, Captain. Throughout the ship, cheers erupted from the crew. They'd done the impossible, turned their ship's obsolescence into an advantage, and proved that humanity's greatest strength wasn't its technology, but its ability to think beyond conventional limitations. Reactor containment is critical, Wang reported, her voice tight with strain. We need to power down now, or we'll tear ourselves apart. Shut it down, Chen ordered. But make sure you document everything. The bureaucrats are never going to believe this without proof. As the quantum distortions faded and normal space reasserted itself, the crew of the Perseverance watched the Thraxian fleet retreat in disarray. They'd struck a blow that would be remembered for generations, proving that sometimes the best weapon wasn't the newest or most advanced, but the one wielded with courage, creativity, and the kind of desperate brilliance that came from having nothing left to lose. "Send a message to command," Chen ordered, allowing herself a small smile. "Tell them the Perseverance's decommissioning schedule may need to be revised. We've discovered some interesting new applications for our obsolete systems." 2 months after the Battle of the Perseverance, as it had come to be known, Captain Sarah Chen stood in the ship's engineering bay, watching a team of scientists examine Chief Wang's modifications. The Perseverance's scheduled decommissioning had been indefinitely postponed, much to the crew's satisfaction. "It's revolutionary," one of the scientists muttered, staring at the jury-rigged reactor controls. "The quantum fluctuation effect alone could change everything we thought we knew about space-time manipulation. And you did this with 30-year-old equipment." Wang shrugged, though Chen could see the pride in her engineer's eyes. "Sometimes the old ways have advantages we forgot about. Modern reactors are too efficient. They eliminate the quantum irregularities that made our breakthrough possible." News of the battle had spread throughout human space, though few initially believed that a single outdated cruiser had routed an entire Thraxian battle fleet. The alien empire's response, however, had confirmed the story. They'd requested immediate peace talks, suddenly eager to negotiate with a species that could turn obsolete technology into weapons they couldn't counter. "Admiral on deck," someone called out. The assembled crew snapped to attention as Admiral Harrison entered the engineering bay. The old naval officer looked around with undisguised interest. "At ease," he said, walking over to where Chen and Wang stood. "I've just come from a rather interesting meeting with the Defense Council. It seems your little demonstration has caused quite a stir." Chen exchanged glances with Wang. "Sir, the Thraxians are withdrawing from 3 disputed sectors," Harrison continued. "Their official statement claims they're reevaluating their strategic position, but our intelligence suggests they're scrambling to develop defenses against older human technology." He chuckled. "They're apparently convinced we've been hiding our true capabilities all along." "Not hiding, sir," Chen replied. "We just needed the right circumstances to discover them." The Admiral nodded. "Which brings me to why I'm here. The Council has approved a new program, Project Legacy. We're going to be examining all our obsolete technology, looking for potential applications we might have missed, and they want the Perseverance to lead the research fleet." Throughout the ship, similar conversations were taking place. Scientists and engineers pored over systems they'd once dismissed, looking at old technology with new eyes. The Perseverance's victory had challenged fundamental assumptions about progress and innovation. In the colony worlds the ship had protected, children now played with toy models of the Old Warrior, as the Perseverance had been nicknamed. Their parents told stories of how an aging ship and her determined crew had stood against impossible odds and emerged victorious. "There's more," Admiral Harrison said, producing a data tablet. "We've been monitoring Thraxian communications. They've started refitting some of their own ships with simpler, more robust systems. They're calling it the human paradigm, the idea that sometimes the most effective solution isn't the most advanced one." Chen couldn't help but smile at the irony. The Thraxians, who had prided themselves on their technological superiority, were now learning lessons from the very systems they'd once mocked. "The Defense Council has also revised its decommissioning protocols," Harrison continued. "Every ship, no matter how old, will now be evaluated for potential tactical advantages before being retired. Sometimes the best innovations come from understanding our past, not just pursuing the future." Later that evening, Chen stood at her familiar spot by the bridge viewport. The Perseverance's scarred hull had been repaired, but they'd left some of the old battle marks intact, reminders of what they'd accomplished. "Message from the colony worlds. Captain," Rivera reported from his station. "They're celebrating the anniversary of the battle. They've declared it a holiday, Legacy Day." Chen watched as her crew went about their duties with quiet pride. The Perseverance had done more than just win a battle. It had changed how humanity viewed its own technological evolution. Sometimes the path forward meant looking back, understanding that progress wasn't always about replacing the old with the new, but about finding the value in both. Chief Wong to bridge. The engineer's voice came through the comm. You might want to see this, Captain. We've been running some new tests on the reactor modifications. Turns out what we did during the battle, that was just scratching the surface. Chen smiled. The Perseverance's story wasn't over. In many ways, it was just beginning. The old ship had reminded humanity of something important, that their greatest strength wasn't in their technology, but in their ability to adapt, to think differently, and to find solutions where others saw only obsolescence. Plot a course to the test range, she ordered. Let's show the galaxy what else this old girl can do. The Perseverance's engines hummed to life, their distinctive sound now a symbol of pride rather than outdated technology. As the ship moved away from the station, its shadow fell across newer vessels, a reminder that sometimes the most valuable lessons came from the past, and that humanity's greatest victories often came from remembering what others had forgotten.